In this video, we're going to take a short break just to talk about perfecting it in camera and then looking to Photoshop. Now, I don't want to get too deep into like the philosophy of this and the morality of Photoshop and so forth. Let's just leave that out of the equation. Here is my thoughts. Photoshop is an amazing tool. It's absolutely fantastic. What you can do with compositing and artistry and so forth and combining images is absolutely incredible. But for photographers that are delivering thousands of images, on a weekly or monthly basis, photoshopping every single one is simply not really in the equation. If you're doing shoots like say a commercial shoot and you're only delivering a few images, you might spend a lot more of your time finishing those images inside of Photoshop. But for the rest of us that are doing portraits and weddings and so forth and editorial shoots and that kind of stuff where you're delivering a group of images that's more than just a small handful, I would say photoshopping each and every one is going to get cumbersome and it's going to take too much of your time away from the actual process of shooting, which is where you make your money. So what I want to say is that I want you all to get in the habit of perfecting things in camera. And to do that, I have just a little bit of a process that I want to show you from where we got from our straight out of camera image to where we got into Lightroom and then Photoshop. And what you're going to see is that we're not doing all that much inside of Photoshop. We're just doing a little bit of refinement with each step. And our final image compared to our first image is very, very similar. So let's talk about this. So our first image is our straight out of camera image. And there's a couple things that I know I'm going to have to fix in post when it gets to this type of image. One, we're adding a lot of light to this shot, right? We're adding a lot of light and she has a red dress on. That means that we're going to get light refracting off that red dress and causing red highlights in a lot of places on her body. It's going to come from the sun, it's going to come from everything. So any light that hits her dress or hits the jewelry, it can bounce and create unflattering light in other places. So I know I need to fix that. Number two, we're shooting in the middle of the desert. So obviously it's warm and she's going to have a little bit of oily skin. So I might need to clean up a little bit of that. But otherwise, there's certain things in the background that I might need to retouch, like say maybe a little bit of flyaways in her hair. That's not really background. But background, well, we have some in the foreground where we have this divot where she basically picked up sand. We have some tracks from all these like four-wheel devices that are being used in the background, which seems like an absolute blast. Next time I'm out there, I want to get a sand rail and just go crazy. That'd be so much fun. But those kind of things are just not, how would we ever fix that? Like, what are we going to do here? We're going to say, oh, let me get a lighting assistant. Can you blow the sand back into place? Or wait for the tracks to disappear. That's just impractical, right? So those are things where we just need to rely on Photoshop to help us clean up because it's impractical to try and fix those things in camera. But for the exposure, for the initial dodging and burning, and we're going to talk about that later on too, dodging and burning by just adding light. But for those things, we can do it in camera. We can get everything else set in camera and try and get to, try and get the dress and everything as good as possible, and then use Photoshop to help us fix the rest. So going to step two, we take it into Lightroom. This is just with the basic Lightroom color grading. So all we've really done, you can even see that in my white balance. I set that in camera so that I'm as close as I really can be in camera, just looking at the back of my screen, to where I want to be in the final image. So white balance, we've maybe adjusted a tiny bit. We've adjusted just overall settings, added a bit of contrast, a curve, sharpness and so forth. It's really just a 1 or 2 click process with the Lightroom preset system to get it to this point. And then we're looking to Photoshop. And in Photoshop, what are we doing? I'm doing retouch over the skin to kind of clean up well, of course, any blemishes and so forth, but what I'm really looking at is to clean up areas that have oily skin or areas that are say oversaturated from the red tones and so forth. So I'm kind of cleaning up that. I'm adding a little bit of dodging and burning to the skin just to kind of lift out certain areas and kind of burn certain areas. I'm fixing like the foreground areas and the background and stuff. But when you compare these two images, there's not a whole lot that's been done. Even when we look side by side, you can see that the image for the most part was shot correctly in camera. And we spent maybe 15-20 minutes just kind of cleaning up things like flyaways and background elements and cleaning up skin and so forth to get it to the final image. I want you all to get into the habit of this. Even if you are creating amazing composites, even if you're just blowing it out of the water with these crazy amazing composites, I still want you to get it right in camera. Get as far as you can, possibly in camera, and then push it as far as you need to go inside of Photoshop. When you do that, when you get things perfected in camera, your results after Photoshop are going to be that much better because the more you manipulate in post-production, the more you end up reducing image quality and the more it it's going to appear unnatural. The more you can do in camera, the better the end result is going to be, regardless of how far you're taking it in Photoshop. That's it for this tutorial. Let's go ahead and move to the next one.